Hi, my name is Debbie, and I am obsessed with all things to do with ultrasound. I'm an empty nester who has spent the last 28 years scanning in all different kinds of situations: clinics, hospitals, point of service, emergency departments, private offices, echo, vascular, general, high risk OB, and want to dive down deep into all things to do with technology, techniques, and transformation. It's time we take ultrasound to the next level. Think of this like your little power boost on your commute to all things ultrasound, along your way to the thing that we call work. So pull up a seat, make sure you're comfy, and be ready to be challenged and encouraged as we learn it's all about the frequency. Well, today I have a friend, Kari Morin, who is a master certified transformational life coach with a master's degree in education from Vanderbilt University. Based in Portland, Oregon, she's passionate about empowering women to prioritize themselves and live a life they truly desire. Kari's coaching approach strengthens the relationships, careers, and passions that matter most to her clients, guiding them through transformational journeys that disrupt old patterns and spark new possibilities. She co-hosts the Things We Know podcast with Lisa, diving into topics that blend humor, depth, and real talk. Everything from caregiving and boundaries to daily rituals and resilience. Together, they also organize immersive retreats called Best Chapter Yet that invite women to reconnect with themselves with passion and purpose. At home, Kari raised 3 incredible young men, one with special needs, alongside her husband of 29 years. While she's not coaching or podcasting, you'll find her cooking up new dishes, hiking with her dogs, singing karaoke with her boys, long bike rides, and enjoying live music. Please help me welcome Kari Morin.
Thank you.
This is awesome to have my friend and life coach Kari Morin. Is that how you say it?
Yes, yes. I think the my French Canadian relatives way back said Morin, but yeah, we've just always gone by Morin. Yeah.
Okay. Um, who is a life coach, and today I just wanted to talk more about what is a life coach, why do we have them, how can we use them, what kind of results have you seen as a life coach, and they'll cover those kind of topics. Life coaching is kind of a new field that has arose since probably 1980s, although Tony Robbins and all them were around before that, I'm sure, doing kind of their own takeoff on that. But as I Googled the origin of life coaching, the name Thomas Leonard kind of came up, who was a financial planner who used the Coach You kind of theory, and then helped to create the International Coaching Foundation that we know of
Oh yeah.
today. So, tell me, what is your definition of a life coach?
Well, yeah, I think you might get 10 different answers from 10 different coaches, maybe.
Right.
But it's funny because I will say this before I give you my definition. My original awareness of it was like Tony Robbins, right? And
Right.
infomercials he used to do way back when.
Right.
So I didn't really pay attention to it. I just kind of thought it was like a corporate thing, and something extra, like retreats for corporate people. Like I didn't really realize it was a resource for an individual until later. My sister-in-law had one who was also a realtor. You know what I mean? So I don't think I took it really seriously at first. And I didn't come into life coaching first. I came into health coaching when I realized like what coaches were. And I'll tell you my definition. It's a wellness professional, or just or you could think of them like a consultant. And often an alternative to therapy if you're not in trauma, that, somebody who really helps you identify goals and identify the obstacles that get in the way and really help you, the client, overcome those and reach those goals and learn a lot about yourself in the process. So it's a very proactive process, and it's kind of a no bullshit way of being like, okay, if this is really what you want to experience, let's look at all the things you're believing about yourself and all the ways you're identifying that are getting in the way. Because once we clear those, it's like you're there, right? You're much closer to it than you realize. So I think that's what appealed to me about that with health coaching. When I came into that as a second career, my background, I have a master's in education, and I've been a teacher, and I've worked in nonprofit education programs. And I could see in so many communities that had a lot of poverty, that if we didn't like reinforce healthy habits and resources and supports for the parents, these kids were just never ever going to learn and have a stable enough home life to like thrive in any sort of education system. So I started with health coaching and realizing the moms need a lot of support, and I grew from there. And then very quickly in my training, as I got training in neurolinguistic pathways and somatic healing and cognitive behavioral therapy, I realized I wanted to be more of a life coach. Not that health isn't important. I think they all go together. I just really wanted to focus with people on the belief and identity work that you and I both learned in our training, that I feel like makes the biggest difference in whatever you're working on. It could be health, could be relationships, could be career. It really is the nut of everything. So, yeah, I think it's my favorite thing about it, is that even the smallest reframe and the like chance to help someone change their point of view can make a huge difference and like really kick someone into a transformation that they weren't expecting so soon. But honestly, my favorite thing about coaching is that I don't have to have the answers. I get to ask the questions, and I see all my clients. And I think any really good coach does, is having all the answers that they need. And it's our job to help them get to them.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was amazing. Some of the favorite things that helped me were just the fact that, oh, it's just the way I was thinking that kept me from moving forward. And so the small hinges swing big doors, that saying has served me well over the course of many years. Thinking, okay, well, how can I think about this differently, to move past this, or and sometimes just asking the question to the universe, letting it go and waiting for the universe to bring it in its timing, it's kind of a neat way to do it as well, right? But also, yes, I agree. I saw coaching more athletically, like an athletic coach, weight loss training, physical training, health coach in that way. And so when this was like, okay, how can we get your belief system out of the way for you to accomplish things, or to accomplish what you're wanting to, I just felt like the sky was the limit,
Yeah. And I love you said that the thing about the sports is because when I was, becoming certified and starting to like spread the word and let people know what I was doing, a friend noticed I was reluctant. I wasn't using the word coach that much. And I admitted like I didn't really understand the term because I had played sports. And she said, well, like sports, I love the idea of you being a coach, because think about a football game. The coach is not going to run on the field and run the touchdown for you, but he's going to stay in your ear and remind you that we've practiced for this. We have visualized this. You know exactly what to do, and I've got you. Like, and I'm going to be there rooting you on.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. That's so great. It gives me chills every time I remember that and say that, because that really landed for me. That's exactly what we do. We hold the space. I can't take any credit for the success of my clients. I can only say that like I'll show up, 150% or 200% with the space and the structure and the holding you accountable, but it's the client that like really, can celebrate all the markers and all the success because they got themselves there and they stuck with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing because there's so many different techniques and so many different twists and turns that each person can take, and the fact that they often come up with their own solutions, right? In so many different areas. And I like when I hired you as my coach, I think the dining room table conversation with the parents really helped swing me and change my whole viewpoint of some things in my life, and seeing things from my parents' point of view that I'm like, oh, I never really looked at it from that perspective before,
Yeah,
and I don't know, just different small ideas that really perpetuate you forward, right?
absolutely. I think my favorite thing about that exercise that we did together, and thank you for letting me, was what I loved about it for me and for anyone I've ever done that with, that or the belief chain, like these are some NLP practices, is nothing's ever about placing blame. It's not
Right.
even about, like it's not even as, I mean, yes, there's some discovery, but the point isn't about discovery. The point is to like increase your awareness and and what naturally happens is then you expand your compassion around it, that allows you to let it go and like to stop letting that identify you,
Right.
and to realize like what was generationally not mine, but like I was carrying, some generational
Right.
pain, and what can I gift myself now. And I always go back to something Brene Brown said in her book, The Gifts of Imperfection, which is we can't give our kids what we ourselves don't possess. We can tell them we want them, to do things
Right.
differently, but they'll do what we do because
Right.
our actions are a greater teacher than our words. Excuse my dog hacking. So it's okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
That idea that like, yeah, I mean, if I can live, assuming everyone, including the people who are responsible for my needs, did the best they could, it's a lot easier for me to be less attached to what should have been and move forward to like, what can I give myself and what can I disrupt going forward for my kids.
Yeah, and moving forward in love
Right.
versus anger.
Right.
Yeah.
And it also teaches you a lot about boundaries, which is my favorite thing.
Yeah. Yes, yes. Boundaries was a big lesson for me in a lot of different ways. And I love that you're doing life together with someone, right?
Mhm.
And having someone really hold space to hear you and to see you is so valuable as well, right? It's like, wow,
Yes.
coming from a pretty rough background myself, to have that opportunity for someone to look at you and say, no, I think you can do this. I know you can do this,
Hmm.
and these dreams that you're dreaming are not unobtainable, you know? And
Yeah.
so I think in the life of ultrasound or ultrasound technologist, we're just not an ultrasound technologist. We bring, and especially in high risk OB, I mean, it's such a charged emotional experience for most people, whether it be happy or whether it be really sad. And being able to not bring our baggage with it, right? But
Right.
to be able to um bring our whole selves to the party,
Yeah.
um but be able to unload that too, so that we have other avenues and ventures of our lives that we work on, that we enjoy, that we learn to play. I think that was part of and still is a challenge for me, is to learn to have a good time or go out and play, or hike or whatever, giving
Yeah.
myself permission to do that instead of
Yeah.
stay at home and work or stay
Right.
home and figure this out or, I don't have that much time. I gotta da da da.
Yeah.
So, trying to balance that wheel of life that, we talk about the wheel and the different spokes of life and just trying to keep that a little bit more in balance as opposed to one way off of
Yeah.
the other.
Yeah. As you're saying that, I don't want to like get in the way of your next
No,
question or anything, but as you're saying that, I'm thinking my family has just gone through like a very unexpected loss of a young person, and it's been really sad. It was a sudden illness. My nephew while traveling and took his life, and he didn't take his life. Sorry, the illness took his life, and so it was a horrible loss that we're still kind of going through. And when I realized, like you and I are talking about life coaching for goal setting, and that's absolutely right.
right,
But also, what I'm really noticing is self work, whether it's with a coach or a therapist or like on your own, meditation practice or seeking support or teaching around something is so vital because life is lifey. And the longer we live, we're going to have loss. You've been through a lot of hard stuff. You already know this, but a lot of people our age are just starting to hit the hard years
right,
where their
right,
kids are moving out and that's jarring. Where there's career change, there's divorce, there's death, there's new marriages, there's new jobs. Like there's a lot of things that maybe some sound naturally like trauma, but others are traumatic too. Moves are traumatic. And
right.
what I'm noticing is those who do work on themselves have a way to respond to that and hold space for their loved ones so much better than those who have never done any work on themselves. And
Yes.
so I'm really learning that and seeing life a life coach is such a great tool for self-awareness and growth.
Yes. Yes. I was talking to my sister not too long ago, and she said, "Oh, I talked to a friend the other day, and we have this thing that we do where all she does is listen to me talk about
Mm,
different things. And then she'll reflect back to me, well, this is what
mhm.
I heard you say,
That's
and
so lovely.
what a beautiful way of seeing yourself, right? Um, it's so hard sometimes to be in the rush of life, and especially in the medical field. Hurry, hurry, hurry. We got to do another patient. Hurry, hurry, hurry. We got all these things we've got to get done. Your husband's a physician and he has long days and his work is never done.
Mm,
And so always in a hurry, always wanting to get more, more, more. And to kind of shift gears when
right.
you get home and have an outlet or have some space that you hold for yourself, whether it be in the shower or,
Yeah.
in the car ride home or someplace to hold space for yourself. And that is one of the key things that I learned too, is just holding space, right?
Yeah.
That's
Totally.
that's huge, not just for yourself, but for your patients. And you know, as a caregiver in the healthcare field, I mean, we experience life and death, like from one room to the next sometimes,
Yeah.
and that can be hard, you
Yeah.
know, and people are like, well, how do you do that? And we just shut it off and we have to go to the next place, right? Well, when you shut it off, where does it go? How do you handle that, right? So, um, holding space and finding ways, constructive ways to process, right? And
Totally. I
handle.
just got back from a retreat with 20 women that I co-host this with another life coach, as you know. And several of them were in the medical field, like nurses there was nurses and teachers quite a bit, and some coaches and some other professionals for sure. But
Yeah,
being married to someone in the medical field, you're in the medical field.
right.
I feel like I'm nowhere near the only person who was saying this, but when the pandemic hit, I was like, oh, they are going to need so much support. They're taking the brunt of this like soldiers on a field. And the way everything's been busting at the seams in healthcare in terms of, poorly managed budgets for hospitals. I feel like nurses take the biggest hit, and the amount of people when I was at the coaching school that were coming through that wanted to maintain their charge nurse job or their nurse leadership job, but have some skills to just hold space for people so that they wouldn't keep quitting, right? To like help them grow was so telling to me. Like, it's so important. All these caregivers need somebody to hold space just for them.
Right. Yeah, it helps to prevent burnout, right? And
Right.
I think there's more to us than just a caregiver, too,
Yeah.
right? There's all these different aspects of us. I'm not just a mother, I'm not just a wife, or I'm not just, a sister or a friend, but there's a lot of different parts of us that we can explore. I have a
Yeah.
real estate agent who's a friend and she loves dancing, and I just think that's awesome for her to take the time out to venture out and do. I mean, she's in her 50s and she's doing dancing for a professional basketball team in Minnesota, and so I just think it's awesome. Life's not over when you're 50, it's
No, the name of my retreat is Best Chapter Yet. It's about
oh
like, how do
yeah,
you make whatever stage of life you're in your best chapter, no matter what.
right. And I think coming together or having another sounding board, we need to do more of. We've so isolated with our Instagram and everything else, social media, that um seeing someone face to face or becoming a part of a group. I remember working in Minnesota and a young girl made a super huge courageous move and really got out of a really bad toxic relationship, right? And she was actively seeking out better friendships,
Mm.
right? And it was such a challenge for her because we're all so non-social at times now,
Yeah.
right? And so having the capacity to get to know, go to retreats with common women with common um issues, like she could have, picked up some kind of a retreat or an activity or something with her age group, or talked to a coach and said, okay, here's where I'm at. How can I move forward? How can I
Yeah.
go to the rest or through the rest of my life? Help me figure out what I want, because she's like, I don't know. Do I want to buy a house on my own? Do I want to travel? Do I want to do this? She had all these possibilities now as a young professional of things that she could do in her life. And to have that sounding board that is really someone in her corner and not her parents' chatter or somebody else's chatter, her coworkers who, oh, don't go, we want da 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 da. So I
Mhm.
think it's important to have that third party who's objective and someone in your corner and someone to be able to hook you up to other people that you can really communicate with.
Yeah. And I think too, if someone's looking for a coach, my always golden rule for that is, if you are like, looking at a coach that gives advice, run the other way. Coaches are not here to give you advice. We're here to listen. That's like the worst thing to do. That's not what we're meant to do. Everyone assumes that's it. It's not like we've got life just totally mastered and we got all the answers. You have all the answers. We have all the questions and we have the hard questions. And sometimes, those go deep.
Right.
You're meant to, but yeah, so that's one. And the other is, coach cannot be attached to the outcome, you know.
Right. Right. So tell me what some of the outcomes have been for some of your clients in moving them forward.
Well, that's a great question because I've done a range of coaching, and sometimes I'm doing a combo with people, like they have health goals and they have, you know, personal inner work stuff they've identified they want to work on. They want to feel more confident. They want to have better self-esteem, better relationship with themselves. Sometimes I'm working with people around their relationships. And I would say, and I've also helped, like I've also coached people around success with their businesses or like, their professional life.
Right.
And I would say sometimes, we get started and let's say we have 12 sessions and like we have these goals that we're going to accomplish that are, really specific and they're external goals, whether it's weight loss or whether it's, you know, better energy or like these physical external goals, or, make a certain amount of money because I'm going to get this project going and all that.
Right.
And I can really absolutely help with that. But sometimes those things slow down if we get deep into inner work that we didn't see popping up. But yeah, I mean, there's times where, as like there's 3% of people that are going to do like everything you both agree on, everything that they identify they should do, they do it. And like they get the results and they just like those are the unicorns. There's plenty of them out there, but they're a small percentage. Most people don't, they're aware because I help them know ahead of time, like things might pop up and do I have your permission to go deeper on that? They don't see that coming, but they're never ever regretful that we took the time to unearth that and really take it on and be let go of it for good. So I would say I definitely had a client who, this one in particular I'm thinking of, she did not think that she would ever like not be single. And she wanted to work on that, but like was really kind of wanting to fall in love with her life, whether or not she found a partner. And she was also trying to launch a business. And so we did a combo and I said, what do you want to focus on first? Because how you do one thing is how you do everything. And she said, what do you recommend? I said, I think we work 100% on you falling in love with you. That's what we work on. We work on what's getting in the way. And sure enough, like, she started to not even notice that she was attracting people everywhere she went, and that it gave her such buoyancy, and that gave her energy to work on the things she needed to do to start her business. So I think we would have gone slower if we were focusing on the business and we were kind of not going deeper on all the ways she was really hard on herself and letting perfectionism keep her stuck. So that's what we did. We went in on the raw stuff, and the other things fell into place. Now, sometimes, most of the time, what I expect is we work on one thing, and then if we renew our, time together, then next we work on the next thing, and next we work on the next thing. But sometimes it really does just sort of domino that way.
Yeah. So you mentioned just now, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So can you go a little bit deeper into what does that mean?
Okay, I'm
How do you
gonna
interpret that?
also give you a caveat that I don't know that I always agree with it, but in
Right.
general, it's true. I mean, just because you and I both were trauma informed, so we do know that sometimes
Right.
who've been through trauma, they might allow themselves to just numb out and do something to take care of themselves, but then they can work their asses off at work. So like, that's, I want to like allow that if someone's listening going, you might be right. But in general, when people are coming to us as coaches and saying, oh, this, I'm having a frustration, I can never get this thing done, how do I fix it? It's always really helpful for us to say, where else are you showing up that way, or where else is this happening? Because they might not see like, the pattern or the way that they're like stopping short and protecting themselves, that's kind of keeping them from connecting with whatever they're doing. So how you do one thing is how you do everything. If you take shortcuts, in the way you're taking care of yourself, you might be also taking shortcuts in the ways you thought you wanted to show up in your work. But also, if you like are coming from a place of integrity in whatever you're doing, it's going to show up in everything you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's I've heard that language used quite a bit. And so I think it's helpful to kind of realize that, right? The way we as ultrasound techs approach a scan, right, is probably the way we really approach our research to a certain subject, or approach a relationship at home, or approach our children, or like when
Yeah.
you have children, you're stretched. I mean, they push every button, right? And not every child has your same way of thinking.
Right.
For lack of a better word. And so you're approaching them your logistic way, and that's just not working in their defense, right?
Right.
So I think in ultrasound, we definitely get stuck in just like, okay, this is the way I have to do it, right? This is the way I do things, instead of kind of being a little open minded to, oh, there might be another way that might be a little better, you know, and
Yeah.
being open to that possibility or suggestion. Um, or open to new things, well, let's try, doctors now are doing a lot of fetal surgeries and going to surgeries, and they're trying new ways and new things. So being open to being a part of that,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
might be more handy, gosh, I'm a traveler, so right, you work with a gazillion different doctors all the time, right?
But
And learning how they think and how they like things done in a short period of time before you pick up and move on to hearing how another doctor likes it done. It's there's a gazillion and one different ways to do the same job.
I bet. Yeah. I was just thinking too, as coaches, we will work through what are your values with a client. And that really helps you identify how do I do things, right? It kind of gives you some footing and some grounding. Like if integrity is important to me, for example, if communication is important to me, if fun is important to me, if these are my values, I'm going to bring that to everything I do.
Right, right. So yeah, it's fun to be on the side of helping them discover themselves, right?
Mm. But let me ask you, I mean, what's your favorite thing about life coaching?
Um, I think watching them discover or find their own answers, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I haven't done much of it recently, but when I was doing more of it, it it was fun not to really be attached to the outcome, right? Just to the process,
Mm.
you know.
Yeah.
And it was huge. It was definitely like the football coach, like
Yeah.
calling the plays, or helping them to come up with a play or something.
Yeah.
Um, so
One of the other sayings I remember from our training that makes me think of you, like our struggles are our greatest gifts. I think that you're such a safe and knowledgeable and compassionate coach for women and, for people who are struggling with anything, whether it's, at work or at home, parenting, you know, um, family at large, all that stuff. Like,
right,
been through so much that you have such a beautiful, grounded perspective on how temporary even the hardest times can be.
right, right.
Yeah.
So it's definitely an idea to keep in mind for medical professionals, right? It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
necessarily therapy. It's just someone to kind of listen and walk alongside and say, well, what do you think about this? And
Yeah. It's
go,
very,
can
it
I
can be,
ask you something really hard? Or,
it can be really fun and proactive. And I honestly, I've I've accomplished things I never would have imagined, and I wouldn't have probably done them if I wasn't being held accountable by coaches. So,
Right, right. Or think that I could ever even do it, like this podcast or some training that I'll be bringing out, I never thought I could really put wings to that, until I
yeah.
had coaches in my life to say, let's get rid of this so you can move forward to this, right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
Yeah, I think
my wish is that everybody and is that everybody in the medical field was, gifted some coaching.
absolutely. Absolutely. Because it can be very trepidatious to walk some of those lines because we're all not perfect and we all don't ever do anything perfectly. But,
Well, there's also like the belief that gets in the way of even getting a coach for a medical person is I don't have the time and I'm exhausted, right?
right,
And it's like, oh gosh, that's the very reason why coaching could help you just shift your perspective and your priority, help you with your priorities just a little bit so that all of a sudden you feel like you have time and you're rested. That alone would be worth it.
right. Or it's a badge of honor
Right.
that, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I'm so busy, I must be needed. I must, be really good at what I do because I'm just so in high demand and so busy.
Right. And
So,
that goes into like being more of a human doing, and we're supposed to be human beings. So yeah,
right,
helping people slow down and be present and have downtime to refuel their energy to care for others is so essential.
right.
Yeah.
So I hope that helps our listeners to just keep an open mind and consider coaching for their life and to help them move forward and life even outside of ultrasound or life in ultrasound, moving forward in your profession increased my life exponentially, I guess I can say, and wish that everyone could have it so that their life could be increased as well. So, but
Mm.
thank you so much for your time and for your wisdom and encouragement. And I will leave a note in the show notes of a way that they can contact you in case they're wanting some coaching or to help them with their life decisions and making a more well-rounded, joyful life.
Well, yeah, like a lot of coaches, there's always an opportunity. Well, many coaches to have a free discovery call. Those alone are really helpful. Um, Thank you. I just like any chance to spend time with you. So it's great.
Thank you. Awesome. Oh, one last question I always ask all my guests, and that is, since the name of my podcast is it's all about the frequency. What is one thing that you do to raise your frequency to go throughout your day and your life?
I love this question. It's usually musical. It's either singing. I love to sing. I'm not great. I'm not terrible, but I'm not great. And I love singing along to my favorite music, or I like dancing. One of those two things.
Awesome.
Movement or just belting it out.
Yeah. Awesome. Great. Awesome. Well, thank you. And I will leave your contact in the show notes and hopefully they will reach out to you soon.
Thank you so much, Debbie.
Thank you for tuning in to It's All About the Frequency podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Share it with a friend and remember to keep your frequency high.